All right, next up we have the anthology film Four Rooms. This was a film that was made by Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, and two other directors who I'm not really familiar with, Allison Anders and Alexandra Rockwell. I looked them up, at least Allison Anders. I'm not sure if I looked up Alexandra Rockwell, but I wasn't familiar with the name, so I didn't really look too much into them. But after having watched this, I'm not all that excited to go check out their stuff because I found the first couple segments to be okay. They were watchable. They were fine. I think that what makes them good at all and even tolerable is the absolutely ridiculous, wildly outrageous, zany ass performance by Tim Roth. This is almost slapsticky. It's like teetering on the edge of it. Reminds me of like a Charlie Chaplin or something. It's just so ridiculous. His character is extremely over the top. In Reservoir Dogs with Mr. Orange there, when he's in the backseat of the car and he's freaking out, he's Larry, I'm dying, like all that stuff. And I had stated that was over the top. This is like elevated even from there. He really brings it home here. He really sells the shit out of how ridiculous he's being. But it works for the movie because the movie is extremely zany and it's not to be taken seriously in the slightest. Now, I was, as I said, I don't have a ton to say about this movie because I found a bunch of the segments, two of the segments to really kind of just be like, okay. And the first segment here that we have a coven of witches, not an oven of witches, and they are performing a ceremony, a ritual to bring back one of their dead coven members, leaders, and Ione Skye here, who I know personally from The River's Edge. I know she has other fame outside of that, but big River's Edge fan. So when I saw her, and holy hell, is she an attractive lady with or without her clothes. And we get to see her in all her glory in this movie, and it is wonderful. But she is supposed to bring semen from a man to this seance, this ritual, whatever the hell, and she divulges to them that she accidentally, or she was so turned on by what she was doing that she swallowed the guy's cum there, and now she does not have it. And so within an hour she needs to find semen, and she is topless when Tim Roth's character comes in the room, which, as gorgeous as she is, as amazing as her body is, I don't feel like she really needs to put a spell on him to get much from him. But here's the thing with this segment. I don't really feel like there's all that much going on as far as like they could have had a lot of shenanigans happening. Yes, it's a short, okay, so I get that. You're kind of pressed for time, but it's just like, they show up, they say what they're gonna do to each other, half of them get naked, half of them don't. For some reason, I don't know why some have to be naked, some don't. It doesn't really matter, but it's just like, why are some naked? I don't get that. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But they go, and one of them, like one of the ones on the outside, wants to be in on it, and then they realize they don't have the sperm they need, so she goes and grabs the bellboy, gets sperm out of him, and then they put it in there, and the girl's born, and that's the end of the segment. And it's like, no fight, no resistance, no obstacles, no nothing. Like, oh, there's a man. Oh, he'll give us his cum willingly. Oh, he's resisting a little bit. I guess I'll just put a trance on him. Okay, now I have a semen, and we're good. It's just so fast, and there really isn't any obstacles for them. I was like, oh, okay, that's it? That's all? That's the whole thing? That's your whole segment? Wow, okay. And then the next segment has Jennifer Beals from Flashdance, as I said. And, I forgot to mention that Valerie Golino, however you say her name, which I think, she's been in tons of movies. I think Rain Man would probably be her most famous film that she's been in. Or, I remember in Escape from LA, the very short amount of time that she's in that movie. She's a beautiful girl, but I will always know her as the chick from the Hot Shot movies. If talking about slapstick, Hot Shots Part 1 and Part 2, that's instantly where my brain goes when I see her. So I forgot to bring her up. And Lily Taylor is gorgeous in this. I'm not really all that attracted to her these days or anything, but man, she was one good-looking woman once upon a time. But then, the next segment, you fucked my wife. No, I didn't. I love the performance by Tim Roth throughout the whole thing. I think he just embraces how silly his character is and just goes for it. And I feel like he lands it most of the time. And sometimes I'm like, you could have dialed that back down a little bit, but that's his performance in this. Fuck it, why not? Just go for it, have fun. And that's what he does. And in this, his reactions to everything are great. But yet again, it's just kind of like, here's my wife. I have her tied to a chair. Did you fuck her? No, I didn't. Then the guy goes to have a heart attack, and he, instead of just running right out the door that's next to him, he goes into the bathroom on the 4th floor and tries to sneak out the window, gets half caught in and out. And it's a great shot of him like sideways, and he's like, I couldn't possibly describe to you. I remember that in the trailer. I remember the trailer to this movie very well. I remember that scene in the trailer and a couple other sequences in the movie that are in that trailer. But I don't know, he just runs into the bathroom, then he comes out, and the guy was faking it to see if his wife loved him, and then she starts berating his penis size, essentially, by saying how big the other guy's dick is, which is pretty much the tactic of most women who like to take cheap shots. No matter how big a guy's dick is, no matter what you've said before, it doesn't matter what, if you start talking about another guy's dick being bigger, or his being small, or anything, it's like a cheap shot bullshit thing. It's like the go-to tactic for women to just, they always got to attack the penis. If it isn't yours, it's got to be someone else's who is bigger and better. And the funny thing is that I don't know how women do with their fantasies of what their spouses or their boyfriends or their girlfriends or whatever are up to. But guys, especially me, I don't really do this anymore because I've just matured, and I don't seem mature, but I have matured in some ways. But when I think of my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend, or my girlfriend with somebody, they're always having in my mind, and I think this is true of most people, when you fantasize about them with someone else, not in a sexual, exciting way, but in a, you don't want that to be happening. You always imagine the best sex they've ever had ever. That's what your brain goes to. It starts filling in these blanks, like his dick is this big and she loves every inch of it, and he's just giving it to her better than she could ever have gotten it. And even if they probably didn't even do it, but even if they did do it, it probably was not even all that great. But in your head, it's the greatest thing ever. So when she goes off about like how his dick is enormous and how amazing he is with it and all this guy just crumbles under the weight of it all. And I found that to be very funny, because I know that can be true for most people when it comes to their wives, their boyfriends, their whatever. And then he just runs out the door, and that's that. It's just kind of lackluster yet again. It doesn't, and as I said previously, you don't have a lot of time, but I don't give a shit. There should be more going on in these segments. I've watched, look at this. I just got the beautiful Creepshow edition from Scream Factory right here. Just came in the mail today. There's 5 damn segments. Look how beautiful this damn thing is. There's 5 segments in this film, and the movie's 2 hours long, and this movie's 1 hour and 40 minutes long. And there's so much going on in each of the 5 segments in that movie. And if you want to go to Creepshow 2, which is this beautiful Arrow release I got here, that has 3 segments at like an hour and a half, an hour and a half. There's so much going on in each of those segments. So there's no excuse for not much to be going on in these. It's really riding on the performance of Tim Roth here, who was supposed to be played by Steve Buscemi. All right, next one is done by Robert Rodriguez. Now, this is one of those rare instances where Quentin Tarantino actually, I feel, got showed up. I think that the Misbehavers, or whatever the name of this episode is, Robert Rodriguez's segment in this is the best of the bunch. I find it to be the funniest, the most interesting, the most going on. He actually runs into real complications. Not as many as I would have liked, but still, he does. At the very end, it escalates quickly. Like throughout the rest of it, it's just kind of them in the house, because Antonio Banderas, which is great in this, he hires the bellhop here to watch over his kids. If anything happens to him, he's going to kill him. Or he says, "I wouldn't want to be you," whatever that means. And the kids they're not really all that bad of kids. You think that these kids are going to be absolute monsters, but for the most part, they're just kind of kids that have been left alone. And, yes, one of them smokes and little cigarettes, puffs here and there. But as I said, they're just kids. They find a hypodermic needle in the room and they paint up on the wall to throw it like a dart. This is something kids would do, 100%. Like, I feel like this segment could have been way more outlandish and over the top, especially since Tim Roth's character is such in this movie. But regardless, I do find this to be the funniest, and it's all about the ending of this. The rest of it's fine, and I like it okay. And when he rubs the freaking stuff on their eyes and they go and they wash it off, and she's like, "You never thought to do that?" And he doesn't answer, because you can tell he never did. But it's all about the ending, man. When she comes in the room and she's like, "There's a dead hooker, there's a dead woman up here," and he comes up in there and she throws it open, and the immediate, as soon as he sees her, it cuts to him, hard cuts to him, just vomiting instantly and yelling at the same time, "What the fuck is that?" And he grabs the phone. "There's a dead whore." And she's freaking out. "Don't call her that." Throws a hypodermic needle into his leg, and the kid sets the room on fire, and he grabs the leg, and Antonio Banderas' character comes through the door, and he's holding a dead freaking woman's leg while, with a hypodermic needle, and he's holding the freaking thing in his hand, and the kid's in the background smoking cigarettes, and it's funny. That whole sequence right there is the best sequence in the entire movie, is that end of this segment. It laughed out loud for a good 10 seconds at him vomiting as he was seeing what she found there. And you even got a cameo from Selma Hayek there on the television. And then we move into the last segment here by Quentin Tarantino. The whole point of doing this, because this is Quentin Tarantino. Oh, he also slaps the freaking cigarette out of the kid's face. The kid's smoking a cigarette, and he slaps his face twice. Anytime where people hit kids in a movie in a comedic way, I know that sounds fucking messed up, and hitting kids is never funny. It can be, and in this movie it is, but the funniest use of it I've ever seen in a movie is in Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. When he comes in the house and he's angry, he's crying, and those kids, he just punches her kids right and left. I cry laughing almost every time that I ever watch that segment. Or that segment, that sequence there in that movie. Such a fucking funny movie. I love that film. Anyway, another slapstick comedy. There you go. And, all right, so we get into Tarantino's segment here, and we have Marissa Tomei. And this is Marissa Tomei in her prime, if you want to call it that. She's still as beautiful as she ever was. Oh my God, she's 54, 55. I would date her in a second right now, and I would be afraid to date her, because I would be terrified the entire time she would think that I was getting too old for her. That's how damn good she looks in the newest Spider-Man movie. She just, oh my God, she's amazing. But this was right after My Cousin Vinny. So she had just won an Academy Award and was doing some little segment here. But she's the stoner on the phone. She reminds me of Floyd in True Romance. They share. I think they're a match made in heaven. Floyd and Marissa Tomei's character in this movie. They could just get super high together and they talk. And I like the conversation with them on the phone. And he's bitching to her and he talks about how this gorgeous witch fucked him for his semen, and she's like, sounds pretty awesome. He's like, admittedly, that one wasn't too bad. Like that was all pretty funny, and then he moves on. She's like, what do you want to do? You want to move on from that? Like, she's so engaged in the conversation. I love how she plays off of that. Like, she shouldn't give a shit at all, but she's sitting there and humoring him and actually interested. And he's like, give me that fucking phone. And Kathy Griffin gets on the phone with them, and she's like, you got to go up to the penthouse. Like, if you can quit your job, you can do whatever you want, just do that. And they go up there, and Quentin Tarantino plays kind of the main character here himself, and they play off of an Alfred Hitchcock Presents episode, The Man from the South. Although in this movie, I'm pretty sure they call the episode The Man from Rio Bravo, something like that. And I went to look up the episodes because I've never seen it, and the episode is called The Man from the South. So I don't know if that's a mess up. I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering it. I also forgot I saw them playing the Rambo NES game on the TV there. I thought it was the Predator game for a second on NES, but I think it's Rambo. Anyway, but we've got Bruce Willis in this. We've got Paul, the bartender from Pulp Fiction. My name's Paul, and this is between y'all. And then we got Jennifer Beals coming back from the second segment of this. And so they're going to recreate the segment from the Alfred Hitchcock Presents thing where he bets him his car that he can't light his lighter there 10 times in a row without fail. Ted has to be convinced with $1,000, which he ends up taking $1,100 and walking right out. But I do love that in Quentin Tarantino fashion, that he just, the guy hits the lighter for half a second, and before that, boom, like just as it hits, it's so fast cut from him hitting it, chopped finger, screaming, grabs money, walks out the door. It's all in about 2 seconds. And that's what makes it really, really fucking funny. As far as the whole, I don't know. I find Tarantino's segment in this to be okay. I think the ending of it is really funny, the way it all pays off. So it's good payoff. But I think maybe it's just because it's Quentin, which I actually like Quentin Tarantino as an actor. I love his performance as Jimmy in Pulp Fiction. I like his performance as Mr. Brown in Reservoir Dogs. I like his performance in Django as that like Australian freaking whatever the hell he is. Like and the character he plays in Planet Terror, and I like him in movies. So it's not that. It's just maybe this wasn't, I don't know. It's okay. It's fine. And just maybe it's the dialogue that I'm not really all that big on. I don't find it to be all that interesting. And Tarantino always writes super interesting material, so what the dialogue that he's giving me here, I was kind of like, never really laughed, never really had all that much fun with it. So I don't know, it's whatever. But yeah, happy ending for Ted here. He gets a bunch of money. I mean, throughout all the different episodes, he got $500 from Antonio Banderas. He got $1,100 from this guy. He's got Madonna tips him with something in his tips. He got fucking laid by a hot ass chick. I mean, all in all, now he might have like hepatitis or HIV though, because he got stuck with a hypodermic needle that was found in a bed next to what appeared like seems to be a hooker. Yikes. But hopefully he doesn't get anything like that. And he had a hell of a night, but a lucrative night, both financially and physically, since he did get laid by Ione Skye there. So anyway, guys, all right, I wasn't expecting to talk about that movie very long, but there you go. I never can shut the fuck up. But have you guys seen this movie? This is one of those ones I expect most people to be like, I never even heard of this one. But yes, Quentin Tarantino directed a segment in this, so I didn't want to pass it up, and I've owned it for a long, long time, so I thought it'd be Good time to go back and rewatch it, hoping that it was better this time, but I found it to be the same as usual. Just kind of like, it was fine. You know, Tim Roth is great in it. Mostly everyone else is whatever. So, yeah, there you go. Adios.